everyone, and welcome to another episode of Split Tech City podcast. Today our guest is Sara Dyson from Expat in Croatia. Hello Sara, and welcome.
Hi Nicolina, thank you for having me.
Right off the bat, first question. Where are you from, and what was your life like before you came to Split?
Okay, well, I'm from Texas. I grew up in a suburb outside of Dallas, and I lived there until I was 26. I went to university and got a degree in political science and photojournalism, and I decided I didn't want to do any of that. So I went to culinary school in New York after that. Yeah, I kind of do a lot of things. And while I was living in New York going to culinary school, I needed a job, and I started working at an agency for user experience. And that's how I got into web development, which came full circle both with the journalism and the web development to bring me here now. But after New York, I went to Amsterdam, then to California, then to Florida for a little bit, and then I came to Croatia in 2011 as a tourist, and then I moved here in 2012.
Okay, quite a journey and quite a story.
Yeah.
So my next question would be, why here? What happened in your life to bring you here, and why Split?
It was serendipitous, also kind of accidental. It wasn't something that was really planned. I didn't know anything about Croatia at all. And then I was researching a trip to Italy, and I came across this blog post of this American couple who had taken a kayaking trip from Opatija to Dubrovnik. And they were talking about Croatia, that it was more beautiful, the things were cheaper, the people were nicer, and all around they just were so much happier in Croatia rather than going to Italy. And I did not know anything about Croatia. I was like, what is this paradise you describe? I have to know more. And so I started researching Croatia, and in the end, I didn't go to Italy at all. I came here for 10 days instead. And at the time, I was living in California, and I really wanted to move back to Europe. But as an American, to move to Europe, it's not super easy, and I wanted to go back to Amsterdam, but I couldn't find a job to sponsor me. Didn't work out, and I was like, okay, well, maybe I can take all the web development knowledge that I have gained in the agency that I work for and start freelancing for myself, and I will try out Croatia. At the time, at least, the cost of living was low enough that if it didn't work out, it would just be a long vacation. It wouldn't be a giant life mistake. And if it worked out, great. And so I gave it a try. I didn't know anything about anything when I got here. Didn't know anybody, didn't know the language, didn't know what MUP was, didn't know where the grocery store was, nothing. And I tried it out, and within a few months I fell in love with it, and I've been here ever since.
Wow, nice. That's nice to hear, despite of definitely some struggles I'm sure you had along the way, considering, bureaucracy in any country isn't easy to navigate. So Croatia is no different. So tell me a little bit about that. I mean, as you said, you landed here not knowing anything, just knowing that it's beautiful, but of course beauty is not enough for day-to-day life.
No,
and
it isn't.
day-to-day work. And so tell me a little bit about that part.
I relied on the kindness of strangers. Croatians I have found to be so welcoming, and they'll bend over backwards for you even if you don't ask for help, even if they don't know you very well. So when I first got here, I was looking for an apartment, and our broker who helped us find an apartment at the time, she was like, okay, well, you need an OIB. What's an OIB? So she took us to the tax office to get one. And then she's like, well, you need to register with MUP. I'm like, what's MUP? What's this address registration you speak of? We don't do that in America. But I was familiar with that process from the Netherlands. So she took us to MUP to initiate our residence process. And that's how it started. And then she introduced me to someone else who could help me open a company. And then that person went to MUP with me, and then that's how it all got started, was really just people that came into my life to help me, get a place to live and start a life. They're the ones who guided me on the tax office on MUP to get started, and that just started to lead me down this path. Yeah.
So, in your experience, community is something that people will definitely find here.
That's the number one reason I live here, is the community. I mean, it's something that really is, I feel very strongly about. It's hard for me to talk about it because I feel like some people, you know, that come from the States, they may look at what I say as a negative thing, but it's not. Just I can compliment Croatia without bashing where I came from. Those two things are not tied together. But the community here, I've never experienced that anywhere else. I know that if I ever need help, I can knock on the door of anyone in my building, even though I don't know them. And I know that they will help me. If I need help and I'm on the street, I know that I can stop anyone and they will help me. And I've always felt very welcomed and a part of my community. Now I actively try to be a part of the community, and that makes a lot of difference. It's not just, you don't just get accepted and absorbed into the Croatian community. You really have to work hard at that. You have to speak the language, you have to be kind, you have to greet people when you pass them. You need to be an active participant, and because I've strived as hard as I can to do that, I feel like I don't feel like an outsider. I don't necessarily feel like an insider, but I don't feel like an outsider, and I feel very safe here. I don't feel like I'm surrounded by strangers, and that's really nice to me.
And that thing kind of worked in terms of work, right, as well, because you created Expat in Croatia in, I guess, a way to offer a community to strangers who come here, to expats who come here, and also information that you probably lacked when you first landed here.
Yeah, I mean, the community part, that was something that I didn't necessarily plan, although I didn't plan it to be a business either. It really started very simply, that when I came here, there were no resources in the English language, not even for tourism. The tourist board websites were still all in Croatian. And I had a food blog for like 8 years, and my background was in web development, so putting up a site was something that I could do really easily. And I thought, okay, well, why don't I just start a blog and talk about my experiences with the bureaucracy, simple how-tos, and if it just helps one person who comes after me, then awesome, I've done my job. You know, it wasn't a full-time job. I didn't even look at it as a job. It was just something that I kind of did as this passion project in my spare time, and I found Croatians along the way who worked for me under the table to help me do research and make calls to MUP and those kinds of things. And I just really enjoyed doing it. And it wasn't until 5 years into it that I transitioned it into a business, because I kind of got forced into doing that by MUP. I was applying for permanent residence, and I had to have a Croatian salary. And I was like, well, if I'm going to, open up a company and hire myself, I want to do something that I love. And what I love is talking about Croatia all day. And I didn't know if I could turn Expat in Croatia into a business, but I really sat down and I thought through all the revenue streams and how I could go about it, and it seemed like it could actually work. And it did, and I'm so glad that I did it, because now this is my full-time job. This is my complete focus. We now have a team of 7, and we have created that community. And it's amazing. It does almost feel kind of like a family. All the people, the thousands of people I've talked to over the years, especially the last few years, they feel like they're part of something. Just from reading our resources, from communicating with myself and our team, it really warms my heart. I'm so glad that I get to help people on such a large scale.
And that's, of course, for us, who also, in a way, try to present Split and Croatia and what is happening here in terms of tech. That is an impressive venture, to go from a side passion project to basically a business that now employs a full team. And congrats on that.
Thank you. I'm feel very lucky, very grateful, and very proud.
Now we go back a little bit to Croatia, because you talk about Croatia.
I could, yes. You have to shut me up pretty much.
No, we're not going to do that here. So, my question, any favorites, anything that you would say, oh, this is what you must see, this is what you must do? I know, difficult question.
It is challenging to narrow it down because I feel like there's two things. Can I tell you two things?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
You can tell me that.
Okay. All right. Well, the thing is I have one spot not in Split that I feel like it's where my heart and soul is. But then I also have to say something about Split because Split is my home. I get asked all the time, why would you live in Split? Why not Zagreb? It's like Split is like, this is the place for me to live. But then I also have a place where I escape. So, first where I escape. I love Istria, but like the part of Istria around Motovun. And I've been going to the exact same place every year. There's this Slovenian Istrian couple, and they restored this 300-year-old house at the top of this mountain that overlooks the valley and the reservoir around Motovun. And they make olive oil. And so every year, usually in the start of November, because all the leaves change at that time, so it's the absolute best time to be there. And it's also truffle season, and the truffle fair is around that time. But I go and I stay there. And in the mornings, when I open up the shutters, there's this thick fog that is kind of rolling over the valley. And the mountains are just kind of, or the hills, I guess, are just kind of peeking out from the top. And it's so quiet. Just, you could hear a pin drop. There's just no sounds whatsoever. You're completely alone on top of this mountain. And it's, my most favorite restaurant in the entire world is about 20 minutes drive from there. And so I have this little trail that I go through whenever I stay there, and it's just that's where I go to get away. The moment that I go through the tunnel at Uchka and I come out the other side, I instantly feel like 50 kilos lighter. And it's just extraordinary. So I think that's something that everyone should do. And then as far as Split, my favorite thing to do is to put my headphones in with a great playlist and walk around town. But specifically, my favorite part is Split 3. I love the architecture of Split 3.
It's interesting. It's been featured in MoMA, actually.
It has. In fact, I have a friend that's from Split, and she happened to be in New York at the time when they were doing that exhibition, and she got to see it, and I'm so jealous of that. But yeah, I love the architecture. It's so unique. And I love how you can just kind of get lost in this labyrinth of stairs and buildings and alleys, and I just love it, especially on a completely blue sky day. The angles of the buildings up against that backdrop of this rich blue sky is just, I take a million pictures. It doesn't matter how long I'm here, I will still take a million pictures of that every single time I'm there.
Yeah, it is pretty amazing, and it's actually interesting because you have it's like a community building neighborhood, because that was the reason why it was built that way, to kind of nurture the communication between people who lived in the neighborhood. So yeah, it's interesting, and it's also a little bit of a replica of the Varos and old neighborhoods, Varos and Split. Same, like you would move it and then make it modern.
Yes.
In a way. So yeah, I can understand why you're interested in that and why you find it fascinating. And now my next question would be this one: if I was a foreigner and wanted to move to Split or Croatia in general, any tips you have for me?
Yeah, love it. Don't come here if you're not going to like it. It's not worth it, because I've been through a lot of hoops of fire to stay here, and I don't mind it because I love it here. This is my home. This place has made me a better person. It's shown me what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. It brings me so much joy. But because I've spoken to so many people, I've talked to a lot that are so frustrated by the system and they get so angry. It's like, but The system isn't perfect anywhere in the world.
Sure.
To give you an example, I renewed my Texas driver's license from here. And it took 9 months because they asked me for the same piece of paper 5 times. Does that sound familiar? So I know that, the system here is different. It can be challenging in some ways, but sometimes you just have to let it go. I feel like the example that I have seen from Croatians here is when they need to get something done with the bureaucracy, they're like, all right, I'm setting aside the whole day because I know that something could go wrong and this could take up a lot more of my time. And sometimes the bus doesn't come and you just have to deal with it. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. So if people are gonna come here, just love it with your whole heart. And if something doesn't go the way you plan, just breathe it out. Just breathe it out. Because if it's too frustrating, the whole point of choosing to live in a place is that you want to be there, that you love it for all that it is, regardless of the challenges that you may have. So if it doesn't feel right, if there's too much friction, if it's too hard, then don't be here. And I know that's kind of very big picture, but it's the truth. The other thing I'd say is do research. Now, and I know how that sounds given that I did no research at all before I came here.
But you did it for others now.
Yeah, and in my defense, how much research was I really actually going to do?
Yes.
There wasn't any research to be done.
True. No resources.
There were no resources. But it's really important that people do that, especially now. When I came, not to say it was not without its challenges, it was different challenges, but there are a lot of people come here and they don't do any research at all, and that gets them into trouble, and then they get frustrated and angry at Croatia. It's like, but it's not Croatia's fault. These are the rules they have. Every country has rules for immigration. Please tell me, if a Croatian wanted to go and live in your country, how easy would it be for them? And I think in unfortunately, too many scenarios, people are not taking that into consideration. They're thinking more about what they deserve rather than what might happen if someone from this country might try and go to their country. So there needs to be a lot more understanding, a lot more education, and we're trying to do our best to give as much education as we possibly can for free. So it's there for people and they know what to expect. When they know what to expect, it makes it easier on them. It also makes it easier on the bureaucracy itself.
True. Definitely. So thanks for that advice for any potential expats and internationals that are considering moving here. And now, last piece of advice, you as a business owner, what would you say to young Croatians, even young internationals who are living in Croatia, about starting a business and thinking that grass might be greener someplace else?
Whew. It's hard for me to try let me rephrase. I don't feel like it's necessarily my place to dissuade Croatians from going abroad to seek better opportunities. I've been here long enough. I see the struggles that people have, and I do get frustrated with the government. I feel like their priorities are not in the right place.
True.
To make this a better and more prosperous country that retains its citizens. Instead, it seems like they're just trying to create new citizens rather than keeping the ones they already have. But Croatia has so much potential. There is just all this opportunity. What I would say, my advice would be, try and do something new. Because you can. There's so many things that are not being done here that are done abroad. You don't even have to come up with an idea that doesn't exist. You could take an idea from abroad and you could transplant it here. And that has been done with success. Honestly, I wish there were like 30 of me, because there's so many things that I want to do and there's not enough time to do it in. Like, having a business in Croatia is not easy. It is really tough, but it also can be incredibly amazing. And if anyone's just thinking about it, really just explore it. Just try and look around and see where is the gap? What in my daily life am I missing? Because if you're missing it, chances are a bunch of other people are missing that too, and you can fill that. Because whoever does it first, in lots of these different things, they're just going to clean up. And also, whatever it is that you're going to do it well. Do it well and consistent, and strive to do it better than anyone else. Because too often I see here, which you might be able to identify with, is people copy other people. They see that someone's having success and they're like, I'm just gonna do exactly what that person's doing, like word for word. It's like, well, if you're doing that, then you can never truly serve your audience authentically.
Yeah, and be yourself.
And be yourself, or get joy from that, because you're always following after someone else. Be the person who sets the standard in whatever it is that you do, because then no one can ever compete with you. And none of the Croatian bureaucracy stuff matters at that point, because then you'll have true success.
True. Thank you very much for that sage advice and for this lovely chat we had. And if you want more content like this, subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow Split Tech City on our website and social media. Bye!